I'm sitting in a room full of investors right now, and they're all laughing. Not like polite chuckle laughing, like full-on this guy is delusional laughing. One of them literally shook his head and said, "Bro, nobody is going to use this." And I just sat there thinking, if only you knew how this ends. Let me rewind, because 6 months ago I wasn't in any fancy room. I was in my tiny apartment, broke as hell, messing around with random ideas because nothing else was working. No investors, no audience, no real success. Just me, a cheap laptop, and way too much time thinking, what if? And one night, I came up with something dumb. Like, really dumb. I won't even lie, I laughed at it myself at first. It wasn't some genius invention. It was more like a solution to a problem nobody was seriously complaining about. At least that's what I thought. I built a rough prototype in a few days. It looked ugly. It worked, but barely. I showed it to my friend and he literally said, this is useless. Another friend laughed and said, who would even pay for this? And honestly, I almost agreed with him. Almost. But something about it stuck in my head. Because even though it looked stupid, it solved something. Just not something people realized they needed yet. So I kept it. Didn't pitch it. Didn't promote it. Just kept improving it quietly while everyone else ignored it. And now I'm sitting in this investor room, watching the same exact reaction I got back then. Laughter, confusion, disbelief. And I'm thinking one thing. This is either the worst idea I've ever had, or the thing that changes everything.
The meeting didn't go well, like, at all. After the laughter died down, one of the investors leaned forward and said, "Okay, let's be real. What problem does this actually solve?" And I remember just pausing, because if I answered that the wrong way, it was over. So I said the honest thing. It doesn't solve a big, obvious problem. That made them laugh again, but I kept going. It solves a small one that people don't think about yet. That made the room go quiet for like half a second. Then another guy shook his head. "That's not how successful products work." And I nodded, because in their world, he was right. Big funding, big markets, big obvious pain points. But I wasn't building for that world. I was building for something that didn't exist yet. After the meeting, I walked out feeling weirdly calm. Not defeated, just confirmed. Because I already knew they wouldn't get it. Back home, I pulled up the prototype again. Still ugly, still useless on paper. But every time I used it, I kept thinking the same thing. This actually makes life slightly easier. Not dramatically, not in a way people would notice immediately, but enough that once you used it, you didn't want to go back. And that's when I started changing my approach. Not trying to impress investors, not trying to look smart, just focusing on making it feel natural, like something people would use without thinking, something that slowly becomes part of their routine. I wrote one sentence in my notes that night. If they laugh now, I just need them to remember it later. And I didn't know it yet, but that mindset was about to turn everything around.
The first version I actually released was bad, like embarrassingly bad. But I was done waiting for it to be perfect, because every time I tried to polish it more, I just end up overthinking it and not shipping anything. So I dropped it anyway. No big announcement, no marketing push, just posted it quietly and sent it to a few people I knew would be brutally honest. The reactions were exactly what I expected. One guy replied, "Bro, I still don't get what this is for." Another said, "I respect the effort, but this ain't it." And yeah, that stung a bit. But one message stood out. It said, "I don't know why, but I keep using it." That was it. No hype, no explanation, just that. And for some reason, that mattered more than all the negative feedback combined, because it meant something was there, something small but real. So I doubled down. I stopped asking, "Does this look impressive?" and started asking, "Does this feel useful?" That changed everything. I simplified the interface, removed half the features I thought were cool, and focused only on the one thing people kept accidentally coming back for. Usage started creeping up. Slow at first, like painfully slow. but consistent. And consistency is something investors don't see in one pitch, but users feel over time. I remember checking the analytics one night and noticing something weird. People weren't just trying it once. They were coming back, again and again. And that's when it hit me. They're not laughing anymore. They're using it. That's when everything started getting uncomfortable, because the same people who laughed at it started noticing it again. Not publicly, not at first, but in small ways. A message here, a comment there, wait, this is that thing, kind of reaction. And suddenly, I started getting emails from people I didn't expect. Small blogs, indie reviewers, a random product guy from a mid-sized company. Nothing huge, but enough to make me realize this wasn't invisible anymore. So I did something risky. I pushed it a little harder. I added a simple update that made it easier for people to share it. Nothing crazy, just smoother flow, less friction. And that tiny change did more than anything else I had built before. Usage jumped, not viral overnight, but noticeable. Steady growth. The kind you don't celebrate loudly, but you definitely feel. Then one morning I woke up to a message that changed my mood instantly. It was from one of the investors who laughed at me. Short message, no apology, no friendliness, just, "Hey, are you still working on that thing?" I stared at it for a while, because that question doesn't sound like much, but I knew exactly what it meant. Curiosity, reevaluation, a crack in the wall. So I replied calmly, "Yeah, it's growing slowly." That was it. No pitch, no explanation. Just letting the product speak for itself now. And weirdly enough, that felt stronger than any meeting I had before. Because now, I wasn't trying to convince anyone anymore. People were starting to come back on their own. A week later, I stopped pretending I wasn't checking my phone every 5 minutes, because things were actually moving now. Slowly, but in a way I could feel. More signups, more repeat users, more messages from random people saying things like, "I didn't think I needed this, but now I use it every day." That line stuck in my head, because that's the exact opposite of what everyone told me in the beginning. Nobody needs this. But apparently, they did. They just didn't know it yet. And that's when I started seeing the real shift. Not in users, in perception. People stopped calling it that weird, useless idea. They started describing it differently. Kind of useful. Actually kind of addictive. Wait, this is low-key helpful. That low-key word is always where things start changing. But with growth came something I wasn't prepared for. Pressure. Because now it wasn't just my project anymore. It was becoming something people expected updates from. People were watching it evolve. And I had to keep it moving. Fast. One night I stayed up until like 3 a.m. just fixing a small feature that broke. Nothing major, but annoyed users enough that I couldn't ignore it. That's when I realized something. Before, I had freedom. Now, I had responsibility. And then came the email. Subject line, "We should talk." From the same investor who laughed at me in that first meeting. I opened it and just stared. No emojis, no friendliness, just a meeting request. And suddenly, I felt that same energy again, like I was back in that room. Except this time, I wasn't the joke anymore. I was the thing they couldn't ignore. I didn't reply to the email right away. I just sat there looking at it like it might change if I waited long enough, because I knew what this was. This wasn't a catch-up message. This was a "we were wrong about you" message, and those hit different. The next day, I finally agreed to the meeting. Same type of place as before. Glass building, clean lobby, expensive silence everywhere. But this time I wasn't walking in hoping they'd understand. I was walking in knowing I already had something real. When I sat down, the same investor from before looked at me for a second and said, "I'll be honest, we didn't expect this to go anywhere." I just nodded. No emotion, because I remembered exactly how they laughed. Then he continued, "But users keep coming back, and that's not normal for something we dismissed. Another investor leaned in. What exactly is your plan with this now? And that was the moment, because a few months ago I would have tried to impress them. Big vision, big words, big promises. But now, I kept it simple. I'm just making it better, one iteration at a time. Silence. Not bad silence. Careful silence. The kind where people are recalculating you. Then one of them finally said, "Okay, so what do you need to scale it?" And I realized something in that moment. They weren't laughing anymore. They were listening. And that changes everything. I didn't answer immediately, because that question, what do you need to scale it, hits different when you've gone from being ignored to being taken seriously. A few months ago, I would have said something random like marketing or more funding just to sound smart. But now, I actually knew the answer. So I took a breath and said, I don't need hype. I need time to refine it before it breaks at scale. That made one of them raise an eyebrow, because most founders ask for growth. I was asking for stability. Then I added, if it scales too fast in its current form, it'll lose what makes it work. That part changed the tone in the room. Less skepticism, more curiosity. They started asking real questions now. Not why would this work, but how does it keep people coming back? And that's when I realized something I didn't see at the beginning. The thing everyone laughed at wasn't the idea. It was the timing. I built something slightly ahead of what people thought they needed. Not revolutionary, just early. After the meeting, I walked out feeling something I hadn't felt before. Not excitement, not anxiety, clarity. Because for the first time, I wasn't trying to prove the product was valuable. It already was. Now, it was just about not ruining it. Weeks later, growth kept climbing. Not viral spikes, steady adoption, the kind investors actually respect. And eventually, I got the offer. Real funding, real valuation, real traction. The same people who laughed at me in the beginning were now trying to be part of it. But the weirdest part? I didn't feel like I made it. I felt like I just proved a point I always knew deep down. Most people don't laugh because something is bad. They laugh because they've never seen it work yet. And one night, after everything calmed down, I looked at the original ugly version of that product, the one everyone called useless, and I just thought, crazy. This is what changed my life. Not overnight, not loudly, but permanently.
Before you go, hit that like button and subscribe for more unbelievable stories just like this one. See you in the next story.